Jaj, megérkezett az úr! I have a guest. Yes, nice, okay. So yes, Aaron, my best friend from Hungary, is joining us for 4-ish days, give or take.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about it. And we had a great idea for a video to make, because the funny thing is that the two of us like kind of got socialized like around the same like time and place, obviously. So we went to the same high school in the downtown Budapest, you know, like the elite high school, you would say. All the fellow Hungarian viewers would definitely say that. So we kind of socialized around the same spot. But then, you know, like our paths more or less diverged in the past 2.5 years. So myself, as you very well know, moved to the Netherlands. I did my master here and live in the Bosch, the scenic background behind us, yeah, the wind, paid actor. So, but Aaron, on the other hand, got into the workforce, doing something actually productive with his life.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Earning that sweet GDP.
Yes, someone has to produce that good old gross domestic. So, and he's still, you know, living and working in Budapest, more or less in the busiest part of it. We are on a mission because a very nice guy with 2 old dogs just stopped us on the swamp where we are walking right now to ask me like what I'm taking pictures of and what we're up to. And then he just told us that there's a deer nearby. And then he just spotted my camera and was like, oh yeah, you should definitely take pictures of the deer. This is the magic of Brabant. They have to be some of the friendliest people I've ever encountered. It's great. So the first and like probably most obvious difference between, you know, like our experiences in the day-to-day is the size of the city we live in. So Budapest roughly
1.7, 1.8 billion, I think.
yeah, and then Bosch 165k. So basically exactly an order of magnitude difference between the two of them. How do you feel about the Bosch being so small?
Well, to be honest, I think that it has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages obviously being that it's a lot more quiet and it's a lot slower, I guess, in terms of pacing, if that makes sense. But one disadvantage would be, of course, also with the pacing, is that in Budapest you basically have whatever you can think of. If you can dream it, then Budapest probably has it in some way, form or capacity.
Big truth has been spoken. I have a friend who came from a Chinese town, a medium-sized Chinese town of 7 million people. And then his euphemism was that it only counts as a city if you can get a coffee at 6 a.m. and Indian takeout at midnight. And anything that doesn't qualify on those 2 points is not a town, but merely a village. And albeit I wouldn't say it's a village, but that's my big city scale.
Benchmark.
Yeah, it's a good benchmark, you know, like on what a big city is. And in the Bosch, yeah, when I was reasonably homeless, I tried to find a spot on the weekends to work. And like, I'm an early riser. The earliest spot where you can go, get a coffee and get work done on a Saturday is 9. On a Sunday, it's 10. Nothing opens before that. So that's a big difference. That's something I definitely had to get used to after moving here. Like the other thing, you know, not just like size as in the population, but also size as in geography. You know, like in the Bosch, everything is walking distance. You know, like especially, you know, I'm fortunate enough, I live right in the dead center, and like everything is walking distance. And here, if I spend about like an hour on public transport, that's considered very far, and that gets me to Amsterdam. Whereas in Budapest, just to visit this guy, I have to take like an hour and a half of public transport. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna hop over for the afternoon. You know, like, oh yeah, just get used to it. So yeah, I think the geographical distances.
My daily commute to the office is like 45 minutes each way.
We are approaching our refuge against the elements as we are awaiting destruction. After checking out all the weather apps, we see that there is a big storm cloud on the way towards us. Not storm, but like a big shower. Which brings us very naturally, what a segue, to the topic of weather. Which obviously, you know, like it's a trope between among internationals to kind of complain about the weather. And also Dutch people. I'm pretty sure like it's a necessity to get your citizenship test. There is a task there to complain about the weather. Fill us in on what your impression of Dutch weather is as a visitor here.
Well, this is not my first time in the Netherlands, but on this particular visit, we were just joking that I brought the sun.
Yes.
On one of the 4 sunny days of the year.
Give or take, yes. Yeah. But yes, so the sunny hours, we are not doing very well with them. But I think what a big difference is when I moved here for the first like 2 months, you feel totally depressed because of the gray, like the overcast gray sky and like the constant like slight rain, slight like high humidity, like this just like, it feels very depressing. But after spending some time here, you really get used to it, like you kind of like decouple your mood from the weather, which is a nice touch. But also I feel like people use the sunny days much more, like when the sun is out, like today, this morning, every terrace that we walked past was full. People are sitting out there in the sun, just like literally just sitting in the sun and enjoying the time.
Basking in the sunshine.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's actually kind of cute, like how everyone just immediately goes outside when the sun is out. And like, yeah, of course, like getting drenched in rain is not great. But I do really enjoy the fact that it's like socially acceptable to show up with wet hair into places. Like that's just such a relief, like.
Yeah, you don't really get that in Budapest because when we get we also get a lot of rain in the year, but it's like never like an unexpected thing, because they say that in the Netherlands like it can go from sunny to rainy in like half an hour. In Budapest, if it's going to be a rainy day, the whole day is going to be rainy. Like you don't really get, maybe sometimes in the summer you get like a half an hour of a summer shower, but apart from that, during the rest of the year, it's like if it rains, it rains the whole day.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like there is the old joke that like the best like weather forecast is like you put your fist out the window, and if your fist is wet, then it's raining. And that's about it. Like it doesn't get much better than that. All the good Dutch applications like give forecasts 2 hours in advance and not much longer than that, because like above that it's more or less just gambling. Like we also brought out the sunglasses and left the umbrella at home. That's why we are in this very scenic bike shelter thingy.
Yeah, the irony is not lost on us that
yes, we are gonna sit here.
It's about to come raining down, and
we're gonna sit here in the sunglasses under the roof. The two foreigners speaking Hungarian, so we are clearly tourists. That's a saving grace. Don't tell anyone that I actually live here. Hi, Editing Gergő here. So I wanted to give you a bit of context about this little thing that you saw me wear in the previous clip. That was recorded on March 15th, which is one of Hungary's national holidays. This is a Hungarian history corner with Gergő or something along those lines. I'll try to be brief. So March 15th, 1848 was the start of Hungary's independence war / revolution against the Austrian Empire. If you are apt with like European history, then you know that like that year was quite turbulent if you were an Austrian empire, and Hungary was no exception, of course. We, as basically everyone else, were very super fed up with the taxation and like the regular stuff that people start revolutions about. And then we started waging war, like an independence war against the Austrian Empire. That was kind of a birth moment of like modern national identity, Hungary like standing up for itself, so to say. And we were doing like pretty okay during the whole independence war. It was a pretty successful war on our front. But then Austria called in some friends, and then our revolution ended in a pretty bloody defeat on the Hungarian side. But nonetheless, like even though we didn't like win our independence in this glorious battle, it was still like a very important turning point in like the development of like modern Hungarian parliamentarism and democracy. 30 years later, the Austro-Hungarian like dualism system, like the monarchy was set up, which was like it was a very different setup compared to the previous, empire. You're part of the empire setup that we were running on. So even though the war wasn't particularly successful, it was a very important turning point in Hungary. And every year on March 15th, Hungarians pin this little cockade in the national tricolor. It's obvious that's the Hungarian tricolor. So we pin this on our coats on that day to kind of like commemorate that day of history for Hungary. Back to the video. Well, hello.
Guess who's back?
Back again. Yes, we had the idea about transportation, because that is quite an interesting topic. That like just like also around the culture when it comes to like the style of transportation, but also the differences in within city and intercity, the train. So in intercity transportation, I will do the Dutch part, and then you can chime in with the Hungarian part. Yeah. So in the Netherlands, like most of the public transport system is very much geared towards like between cities transportation. So you have like intercities and sprinters, and like they run like clockwork. I know Dutch people always complain about an S. I do not understand why, because it's actually really nice. And like between city transportation is smooth as butter. But if you want to take like buses or like trams or anything of the sort in like smaller towns or like even like average sized towns, they are not super nice. Like the coverage is not very big. The frequency is a bit lower, and like it's all around just a less nice experience. I guess because everyone bikes inside the cities, whereas Budapest is more or less the opposite of that.
Yeah, Budapest's public transportation is very, very intercity prioritized, intercity focused. For what it's worth, I think that Budapest's public transportation system is compared to its pricing and compared to like how often it runs and on what lines it runs, is one of, if not the best in the world.
Yes, very much agree.
Incredibly accessible, very cheap. So I think like a monthly pass costs around, what is it? 20, 25 euros? Something like that?
Yeah, 25.
For which you get unlimited transportation and you get really good night buses as well.
Oh, yeah.
Night travel options.
Oh yeah, which is non-existent in the Netherlands, by the way. Yeah.
But once you try to venture outside of the city, it's not that easy as it is in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And for that reason, for example, in the countryside, there are numerous places where you kind of have to have a car and a driver's license to get around, to be able to do your shopping, to be able to go visit family, because the public transportation system is so much not geared towards traveling between smaller cities, smaller towns. And of course, you get the buses and you get the trains and. Like you can make it work, but the question is more like whether you want to make it work.
Yeah.
There is improvement that is happening right now.
My impression always is that, like if I would be a retired old guy whose only job is to like go out and look at birds and trees or something, then it's great, because it's very cheap. It's like, it gets the job done if you have the time to wait for it. But like if you're in a hurry or you want to kind of be a bit more efficient about it, then it's largely gonna be a car.
And one thing that I noticed while we're on the topic of trains, I've taken some trains during these past couple of days, between cities in the Netherlands. The trains are usually quite clean,
yes,
quite efficient, quite quiet, actually.
Yes.
And like the traveling experience is pretty good.
I was completely amazed when I moved here, like how clean, like even train toilets are on Dutch trains. Like, yeah, of course, if it's like a Saturday night, last train coming from Amsterdam, like all the party people, it's not gonna be very nice. But like on general, like the hygiene of the trains is very, very good, I think.
Going back as a final thought to like, if you take into account everything about the Budapest public transport system, yes, it is a city of 1.7 million people, so you do need it to be quite accessible. But like, if you take into account how like night transportation, you take into account the frequency, you take into account the level of service, like how clean it is comparatively, and for how cheap it is, it gives many big towns in the world a run for their money.
It's world class, definitely. Like I miss that on the daily. Anytime I have to take a bus here, I do miss Budapest public transport with all of its quirk. No, it's alright. Woohoo! But the last piece that we kind of felt we had to address, the elephant in the room, is the question of food and cuisine. Or the lack thereof. Yes. I think that's probably the biggest culture shock that like internationals go through when they move here. Like getting used to like the Dutch cuisine and like the way of eating and like how utilitarian it is very strange coming from Hungary. So yeah, maybe you can brief on the Hungarian way.
Middle of the day lunch, and lunch is usually warm food.
Yes,
basically.
and a big meal.
And a big meal, like a considerable meal. Whereas
So,
in the Netherlands,
like my family was, because my family lived in Belgium for a while, and they've been familiar with the Netherlands, and they were always joking about like, oh yeah, you're gonna go there, and for lunch you're gonna get a slice of bread with some cheese and a glass of milk with it. And then I was like, haha, very funny, you're just like trying to scare me, and then I started the master, and then on one of the intro days, the lunch was 2 sandwiches, both with cheese, an apple, and like a small paper cup of milk. And like I was properly traumatized, you know, like
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah, exactly. Phew, that took a while to get used to, because lunch in the Netherlands it's very utilitarian, as I said. It comes from, you know, like the Protestant work ethic of the old times. So, you know, like I have many Dutch colleagues who eat their lunch like it's a sandwich. They just take out the box, grab the sandwich while working at their desk. So they might be running some code or like reading some papers, and then just like munch on like a sandwich or two, and then just slap it away, and then that's it for lunch. And like as a Hungarian, that is a proper traumatic event. You know, like lunch is a big social activity in Hungary. You know, like you go out with friends or colleagues or classmates, and then you sit down. You know, like it's usually like an hour and a half. You know, like it's a big meal, and like you take your time with it.
And eating cold food for lunch, that's basically unheard of in
Yeah,
Hungary.
yeah, Hungary
Like,
don't
sometimes
really do
you get
that.
a sandwich for lunch if you're like in a really, really big rush.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, you don't really do that. Like what Gergo just described as not a proper, but an average Dutch lunch, that would mostly be a breakfast in Hungary.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Like the cold breakfast, you know, some deli meat, some cheese, a slice of bread. That's a Hungarian breakfast. You kind of see why they do it, because you know, like if you eat the big warm lunch, then you usually need like another hour afterwards before, you know, like all the blood from your intestines can make its way to your brain again, and they can think thoughts. Whereas here you're like, oh yeah, I just eat a sandwich or two, and then I can continue work, and then it's kind of fine.
That's what we call food coma in Hungary.
Yeah, yes, food coma. Yeah, and then you need like an afternoon coffee to kind of offset that.
Once you're out of the food coma, you drink a coffee, and then you're
back to work. Yeah, the Dutch kind of circumvent that by eating the light lunch. But yeah, that definitely took some getting used to. You know, like the lunch not being the big social meal.
And about cuisine, Dutch cuisine.
Dutch cuisine, yes. Everyone, like the running joke is that there is no Dutch cuisine. Even from Dutch people, like you will hear that as a legitimate take. I think that's like somewhat unfair, because there are like traditional Dutch foods. They are just very minimalistic, you know, like the Dutch cuisine is very much rooted in like the very Puritanist, like Protestant tradition. So, you know, like eating these like very heavily spiced, luxurious meals was considered, you know, like almost like posh. So most of the Dutch meals are very like, you know, like very like hearty meals and whatnot. I do miss Hungarian cuisine, you know, like it's on a different level. And like consistently, like I cook Hungarian meals all the time for my Dutch friends to kind of, you know, like show them what's good. And like every time they are amazed, you know, like oh, like I cook them csirkepaprikás and oh, they loved it. I just tour around flexing on people with the Hungarian cuisine.
Yeah, I guess the best way to describe Hungarian cuisine would be hearty.
Yes, definitely.
Lots of spices.
Yes.
Lots of garlic.
Yes.
Lots of paprika.
Yes.
Lots of meat.
A lot of meat.
Things like stuffed cabbage, which is
yeah.
like cabbage filled with meat and rice.
Yeah, it's close to dolma, but with more meat.
You get gulyás.
Yes.
Traditional Hungarian meal.
Yes,
of like
yes.
almost like a stew-like soup.
Like it's completely on a different level. It has to...
Every lunch and every dinner is an occasion in Hungary.
Yes.
I guess that's the best.
Nice.
Also, shout out to all the Hungarian desserts and wines that we didn't have time for.
Yeah.
But we love you. Wow.
Yes, definitely. We hope you enjoy this little program of comparing the experiences of two Hungarians in the Netherlands, one after a few visits and now 4 days, and the other 2.5 years into it. Yeah, we tried to kind of like highlight parts of the experience. This is, again, disclaimer, this is by no means an exhaustive list, and we definitely do not aim to compare the two countries, you know, like we both love both countries very, very much, like
Absolutely.
very dearly. Both countries very dear to our hearts. The cultures are just so different and so vibrant, and like it's just always very fun to compare kind of the experiences in both. So yes, that was kind of our aim. I hope you learned something or you were entertained. We are fine with either.
I hope you enjoyed my cameo. I tried not to take the spotlight off of Mr. Artist here.
Yes. It's always great to have friends on board. So yes.
But let him know if you liked it, and then if this video does well enough, then I'll be back for more.
All right. Thank you very much for watching, and I definitely will see you next time, and Aaron will hopefully see you next time.
We'll see.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.